WRUU 107.5 FM, Savannah, Georgia. WRUU.org. We are Savannah sounding radio with global soul. Yes, dear Drumfolk, freedom is the heart to make revolution, and thank you for joining our liberation ceremonies. Mission statement for which way Savannah, you ask? A, to complicate, challenge, syncopate, dismantle, contrast, dissect, and break regularly adjusted narratives, and to suggest and demonstrate that accepted or expected neutrality reproduces unequal power flows. B, to provide multiple long-range alternatives which have well-researched, relatable, and useful knowledge benefits ordinarily excluded from adjusted power flows. 2, assert consistent, serialized, and unapologetic countervailing narratives as normal practice to indeed polyriddim. C, in the spirit of Yalpin and Buna, the native and African indigenous customs of powerful discourse and dialogue accompanied by medicinal tea and coffee and social therapy. D, it is with this questioning spirit and thought world that we will discover why Juneteenth is not the same as Stone commemoration, why the 4th of July can never be like the 5th of July remembrance, why 1619, the New York Times Project, pales in comparison to 1526 insurrection, and generally why freedom is the heart to make revolution. Live, here we go. Hello, this is Dr. David Pleasant inviting you to the Which Way Savannah Kanapaha theme of the month, which is Beyond Green Fantasy and Fun. Earth Day, Beyond the Fantasies and Fun. Human rights zealot Fannie Lou Hamer declared in the 1968 George Foster documentary, "This flag is drenched with our blood." Her comment directly targeted the violence of the civil rights era, but the essence of the comment was also in the lynching, murder, dispossession of African people in America from its start. An obvious marker of that start was slavery itself, chattel slavery to be exact. The coffling, shackling, branding, raping, trafficking, experimenting, and torturing made everything within American money-making reach both a place of and a conduit for degradation and violence. The plantation, rather in the field, forest, levee-way, mansion, waterfront, railroad, or street, all represented a tentacled system. In Nazi Germany during the Wehrmacht, the concentration of slave labor camps all represented the Nazi Empire and its tributaries. Very few would see such places as being disconnected from the ugly works of the Nazi Republic as a whole. Few might call such places sites of inspiration, amusement, or places to love. In fact, following the liberation of many concentration camps, citizens from the surrounding sites were often rounded up and brought to witness the horrors they claimed to have not noticed or participated in. Somehow, however, in the United States and in the South in particular, plantations, cities, and regions which prospered and continue to prosper from such enterprise are rebranded as attractions, amusements, and sites of fun and leisure, places to love and enjoy. This is an issue of the past as much as it is a dilemma of the present. Notwithstanding the problem of Southern history as being contentious of democracy, humanity, and genuinely aspire to liberty, justice, and equality. It is also in the fact that present travel and leisure and tour industry continue to profit from a skewed, imbalanced, and misrepresented record. A worsening problem is that current practices and choices in these places fail to learn from that past record or to apply transformative knowledge to present-day decision-making. No smiling, contribution-celebrating tour guide, whether contentious of slavery or not, might contextualize the depravity of human chattel enterprise by revisiting sentimental journeys, ambiguous resistance trails, celebrations of pride and joy, past king and queen glamorization, or even victimization indices as sites are well known for catastrophic harm. As well, no insightful city official or manager might ignore the realities of resonant chattel slavery, Jim Crow, or colonial disparity engulfing the present we live in right now. Places of violence, harm, torture, kidnapping, brutality, psychological and physical experimentation are simply not places of amusement or attractions, like plantations or fountains or beautiful pathways and parks. Auschwitz, does not and should not have a ride or a scary house attached to it. No less is true for locales, plantations, and etc., which, along with present-day demographic imbalances of power and wealth, harbor histories much too complex to reconcile using pleasurable experiences, cathartic exhales, soothing sounds, numbing drinks, exciting attractions, or tasty food. Those are treatments for theme parks, not the treatments you give for a distressed locale or places of escape, rebellion, and freedom, liberation efforts. These places, which are distressed locales, deserve respectful treatments which explore and expose a full range of human presence and dimension, thematically rooted in liberation and freedom rather than smorgasbords of factoids, timelines, and data. The co-optation of African or native indigenous knowledge contributions are much more than context or subtext for aesthetic narrative backdrops or new recipes. Presently, choices have been made to indulge industries which, in this present we are now, reproduce human damage and exploitation no less harmful or threatening than plantation-era circumstances. The DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, where African kings and queens once lived and African myths, stories, and fables once emerged, are today sites of slavery-era horror. They are the places where cobalt and other compounds are harvested for the burgeoning electric car industry and other electronics industry technologies. The labor situations in those places, along with child exploitation, rape camps, and debilitating contamination, operate right now in this day, not slavery of the past, today. Those slave sites fuel and aspire to all electric vehicle economy that's supposed to be enjoyed by cities and towns bound up in the fables and fantasies of some clean or green living, green dreams. The truth is that the harm is variously displaced. The living of children and minors, however, offer up a reality more like the plantation and the killing fields which butcher slave empire and which supply the present backdrop for travel and leisure industry based on backdrops of similar exploitation. Yet the glorification of African kings and queens, animal stories, artwork, and expurgated truth fill the language of celebrations, festivals, and commemorations which avoid realities of present-day African slavery, or even any empathy about that circumstance. The murderous work them to death ethic of industrial rice cultivation, an organic product, cannot be blunted by terms such as our contribution. The industrialized rape, prostitution, and sale of people cannot be reckoned with smiling docents and guys who unwittingly model a, quote, it was not so bad, unquote, performance or an occasion for a sentimental catharsis, a tear, or a sniffle here and there. Where's the resistance, commemoration, or revolt against the same slavery now, in this different time, but having the same subtext? Only a time gear has to be shifted when the engine remains the same. The time is now. The harm is now, just like before. The trivialization of American slavery past only resets the stage for the uncontested exploitation of other Africans in the present. Today's plantations, revivified and rebranded through both amusement and omission, support over-amplified antebellum, colonial, and Confederate commemorations which elbow everything out of the way except slave stories. In the same way, the glitz and glam's benefits of green, 100% emissions-free zone veil the actual slave horrors in the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, right now. No amount of fable-telling, kente cloth wearing, dancing, drumming, or revolution history avoiding will do as a response. Either hanging on the wall with stuffed animals, grinning on a plantation tour, or toiling a cobalt mine so a city can boast of 100% EV aspirations. The same thing is happening now, which the past has already revealed. Our dark past has indeed taught us. That lesson does, or at least should, make us aware of the narratives being sold to us now. The power of those tropes reside in the material culture that they operate from, but more importantly, the mountain of knowledge they omit. A failure to fully recognize the genuine scope of the past directly implicates a present of which similar damage is ignored, like in the DRC. This includes facilities officially designated to provide approved content. The writer Abadayo Adeniyi, citing Goran Grau in his article Decolonizing African Heritage Practices, had this to say. The concept of heritage promoted today by organizations dealing with the heritage industry, from government departments to museums and cultural tourism organizations, has been constructed within the frame of Western consumer capitalism, where culture is a part of the economy. Heritage is packaged, priced, and sold to the public, including the inheritors themselves. Now, that was said in 2014. Green dreaming is a fantasy no different than industrialized cotton, rice, or indigo production as an innocent empire-building enterprise. Seems to be, in light of Confederate and antebellum heritage travel and leisure tour presentation. The catastrophe of modern toxicity, contamination, pollution, human and eco-cultural exploitation is merely placed on the backs of others. Just like plantations and their tributary enterprises and communities place a land of the free, home of the brave fantasy on the back of African and native people. The truth, land of the free, home of the slaves, is more like it. In the past, Stephen Dean and his African wife, Kenda, held 610 slaves in Savannah. With that small chattel slavery army, they produced rice for the bellies of the region. Slave owners or not, everyone ate at the expense of those people. The facts cannot be absolved or restored by fun, attractions, pretty art, and amusements, or neoliberal green utopia, which operates as the same fantasy. The situation in Congo is very real, no different than the Fender's plantation. The situation of desperately skewed historiography in Savannah and the region is a reality also. The enslaved children brought here, that is Savannah, by Lamar and the Wanderer, 1858, were from the Congo, just as the children who now plod out in the sickening dust of cobalt and its partner, lithium. The harmed were not all kings and queens. They are and were merely children churned up and digested in both a new and old story of the coastal empire. Their legacy of harm is continued in the present. Our power to alter that damage and turn it into a revolution of values is in our hands. But just like the legacy of empowering escape, rebellion, freedom, and liberation heritage are constructively omitted or imbalanced and sidelined, so too is that rightful response. The habit of overriding such response and or avoiding responsibility for it is a cultivated one. Once rewarded by masters and mistresses of the plantation, avoidance has become a requisite practice of now neo-colonial actors who find symmetry and structure in projects which both profit and safeguard their status. Today, official space is used to omit, dismiss, or mitigate points of view which do not align with the hegemon, the powers that be. Just like in the past, the insurrectionists, Maroons, Seminole, and rebels were ignored, captured, or dismembered. The Happy and Get Along plantation is now merely the Happy and Get Along municipality, where genuine leadership, collective effort, and self-determination have deteriorated into a morass of privatized sycophants who shield a needy public from otherwise empowering knowledge, agency, and recollection. Only new masters of philanthropists dole out the rewards. Fables, pretty art, and posturing now bully out substantive content and commitment. The city of Savannah purchased a fleet of nearly 110 electric or hybrid cars as an affirmation of its clean energy initiative. Just as in the eras before, the damage and harm of such outwardly progressive acts presented as forward-moving progress pose the greatest threat for black, brown, or red bodies. In this case, the children of Africa. But the ashes, ayes, and yays do not have it. Echoed affirmations have to be met with resolutely meaningful and intelligent action, not reflections, reactions, news feed sequences, or fabled stories, but rather with well thought out responses and strategies gained from engaged participation, self-evident agency and self-determination, real resistance. Adjustments to officially approved dissent protocols from local hegemony just will not suffice. The enslaved and trafficked children of Congo and other places need and deserve better. The earth as well deserves better. Our community is entitled to much, much more, and to harm others around the earth, much, much, much less, especially when our not so distant past involves our Sankofa present. To be sure, the industry ramp up to build 150 million EV, electric vehicles, cars, will dwarf any cobalt extraction made for smartphones as in before. For those technologies, it'll dwarf them. The push for hyper-industrial car production will lead to disastrously exploitative labor abuse. The scenes in the Democratic Republic of the Congo now are only a glimmer of what is to come, and a repeat of what has already been. Which way, Savannah?
Bike Walk Savannah offers bicycle education programs for children and adults, including bicycle rodeos. Nationally certified instructors ensure that all education programs are safe, informative, and enjoyable for participants. They also offer customized programs for businesses and other organizations that are seeking to make bicycling and walking part of their employees' wellness programs. More information is available at bikewalksavannah.org.
The Live Oak Public Library System offers local residents access to hundreds of thousands of movies, television programs, albums, audiobooks, ebooks, and digital comic books for free on your streaming television and mobile devices through the Hoopla app. Supported devices include Roku, Fire, Apple TV, iPhone, and Android, among others. The selection is vast. All you'll need is your library card. Find the Hoopla app on your device and more information at liveoakpl.org.
What does it mean when we say that WRUU is a community radio station? It doesn't just mean that we invite the community to create programming, and it doesn't just mean that we are a voice for the community. It also means that we are counting on the community to keep us going, and you are the community. Almost all of our modest budget comes from small annual or monthly donations from listeners like you. You get to enjoy our community-focused programming because many others have stepped forward to do their part. Now do your part by joining our community of listener donors. Go to wruu.org right now and make a one-time or monthly donation. And thank you for supporting Savannah's community radio station, 107.5 FM.
Today's Yalpin and Buna segment is a meditation upon a theme. Of course, Yalpin, the native people's medicinal tea drink, chosen in ceremony to stimulate brave, candid, and powerful speech about relevant community needs, and Buna, the East African coffee drink in Abol, Tona, and Barak, a ceremony which produces fiery discourse and truth-telling for community benefit, are the foundation of our Yalpin and Buna dialogues. Think on this. To escape is to suggest a pathway, trail, or gateway to where or when freedom, liberty exists. Simply speaking, it is somewhere other than where you currently are. To rebel is both to demand and then establish freedom when and where urgent empowerment and agency manifests itself. In other words, liberty belongs to you, and you create it in the place you command. Freedom, or liberty, is to know an existential circumstance with no spatial or temporal predicates, without either teleology or telemetry, with no beginning or end. The demand and declaration are self-evident. In short, Freedom is a quality of consciousness, no matter where you are, and you project it into every place you go. Now for the eco-cultural concept segment of the show, where indigenous culture, African or native or other people who think about how we human beings fit into our environment, how we owe respect to it, how we love our environment, and how practices of our indigenous past might help protect us, or at least help us interrogate and reflect upon and analyze decisions that are made in this new technological world we live in now.
Hello everyone, my name is Robert Kaiser. I'm a longtime resident of Savannah. First of all, I would like to thank Way Savannah Initiative and Dr. David Pleasant for having me on the program today. I would also like to thank Dr. Simona Perry for much of the data regarding cobalt and lithium-ion batteries. In 2016, the City of Savannah released a sustainability assessment that quantified greenhouse gas emissions from various sectors of the community as a whole. From this assessment, we know that they have identified the main sources of carbon dioxide emissions. While vehicular emissions are a concern, it should be noted that the city's vehicle fleet contributes just 7.2% of the emissions from governmental operations. This fleet is only responsible for 0.3% of the community-wide emissions. The greatest offenders are the solid waste facilities, accounting for over half, or 56% to be precise, of emissions from governmental operations, while commercial energy production is the single greatest contributor, amounting to 54% of total community-wide emissions. The city approached this issue by aiming to replace its vehicle fleet with hybrid vehicles and electric vehicles, or EVs. These EVs run on battery power, which must be charged from the grid. Most of our power comes from Plant McIntosh, which is fueled by natural gas, primarily methane. Methane is an incredibly potent greenhouse gas, although it does not remain in the atmosphere nearly as long as carbon dioxide. Claims have been made that there will be charging stations supplied with renewable energy. However, no details have been provided by Georgia Power about their, quote, will it work program. And the city has already purchased 6 charging stations for over $42,000. So far, Savannah has purchased 21 EVs, most of them Nissan Leaf vehicles. They will likely use 40 kilowatt-hour batteries, though the city has not specified the type of Leaf vehicles they have purchased. 40 kilowatt-hour batteries contain nearly 6.5 kilograms of lithium metal. This adds up to 134 kilograms of lithium just for these 21 vehicles. Savannah has far more hybrid vehicles, at least 91. Hybrids generally use less lithium per battery, but still require cobalt and often another metal, such as nickel or manganese. While there are sources of lithium in the United States, most of it comes from Chile and is refined into usable forms in Australia. In the U.S., we have a large brine facility in Nevada and an operation in North Carolina that mines lithium in the form of spodumene, which is a metal ore. Both of these operations are run by the same corporation, Albemarle. The Nevada brine facility is located in close proximity to multiple indigenous reservations and has impacted an endangered plant known as Team's buckwheat. And the North Carolina operation is just barely southeast of the Appalachian Mountains. The social and environmental impacts of lithium mining are arguably even dire in other regions of the world. Bolivia was the subject to a coup in 2019 after President Evo Morales clamped down on the lithium industry. There are allegations that Elon Musk may have pushed for this coup to supply lithium for Tesla batteries. At one point, Elon Musk even tweeted, "We will coup whoever we want," deal with it, as if it was a joke. Many claims were made that Tesla doesn't get lithium from Bolivia. However, they do purchase from ACISA, which was planning a massive mining operation that was shuttered by Morales. It should also be noted that Chile and Argentina, both with vast lithium reserves, are also undergoing extreme political unrest. There has been a push to develop techniques to mine lithium directly from seawater, which is also a vast resource. However, generally these techniques are costly and create a large quantity of wastewater with high levels of toxicity. Thanks to figures made by Dr. Perry, we know that these batteries also contain large quantities of cobalt. More than half of global cobalt usage in 2020 was for lithium-ion batteries. In 2019, around 70% of global cobalt was mined from the Copperbelt region of the Democratic Republic of Congo, of which at least 20% is mined by hand. A euphemism for this is called artisanal mining. In 2014, at least 40,000 children worked in these artisanal mines. While the Leaf batteries are lower voltage than those used in Teslas and other long-range EVs, they still contain at least 8 kilograms of cobalt, along with nickel and manganese. Mining for these metals is also devastating for various ecosystems. Nickel mining has been linked to deforestation of the rainforests in the Philippines. Manganese sourced on land can have deleterious effects on the water and soil health of surrounding ecosystems. A push has been made to develop deep-sea mining techniques to harvest manganese from seafloor nodules. Though these techniques have numerous ecological impacts, many still yet to be determined. I would like to note that exploring alternatives to fossil fuels is paramount to the future of humanity. However, we cannot engage in the same mindset that got us into this mess in the first place. Over-reliance on oil and other fossil fuels destabilized atmospheric gases, as well as wreaked havoc on the beings that inhabit our planet, leading to what we now call Cancer Alley, and numerous other acts of violence perpetrated by the oil industry on indigenous peoples and so-called marginalized communities. We cannot in good conscience allow for the same injuries to be carried out with green technologies. There are alternatives to the status quo, but these changes must come mindfully and without engaging in settler colonial tactics of dominance and commodification. Building resilient communities that utilize local sustainable resources needs to take precedence over finding the next oil to fuel our economy. Diverting food waste from landfills, reducing solid waste in general, and making use of already available resources would have massive rippling effects into our communities. Way Savannah has addressed this through concepts such as pagarat, or the making of strong, useful, and resilient carriers to transport materials or to plate food. This concept reaches beyond just the means of transport and enters a way of life that has been stolen, omitted, and devalued by the prevailing narratives of our society. It is the omission of these countervailing narratives that has deprived us of true sustainability, a way of living that seeks to regularly love this earth, not just to save it. I want to thank Dr. David Pleasant for this opportunity, and thank you all for tuning in. Till next time.
And that's it for this month's Way Savannah, Beyond Green Fantasy and Fun, the Kanapaha of the month. We hope you'll join us next time for more of our revolution ceremonies. But until next time, Way Savannah? Freedom is the heart to make revolution.
Now speak the word.
following is a WWS Way Savannah PSA. The ideals of chattel slave empire stress the innate unfitness and lesser status of certain people. No less is true for languages of Hitlerian empire or Nazism. Antebellum heroes and segregation laws of America were unquestionably centerpieces of 20th century fascist protocol. Savannah travel and leisure celebrants such as John Calhoun, Jefferson Davis, Alexander Stephens, and Henry Ford were also celebrated in Adolf Hitler's writing alongside the degradation of Africans as plantation fodder and native people as disposable obstacles. The linkages are alive and well. A lack of regular countervailing content still, however, frames the day. In 1970 Savannah, J.B. Stoner, Lester Maddox, and desegregation-resistant newspaper editorials shaped both past and future. Hitlerian philosophy and Confederate tenets lived in them. Today, touristic brands profit from the same plantations, grinning servants, elegant masters, and African effigy wall hangings as entertainment. An unspoken frame for omission is customary. But what can be done today which meets the new challenges and demands for genuine equality? With the past and present implicated in the harm, what role must the media play in genuinely creating and supporting fresh historiographic vision which truly includes and balances meaningful indigenous presence and power? The presence of a sustained liberation ethos, along with Reconstruction legacy, self-emancipation agency, and self-determination, are necessary for helpful community development. A comprehensive archive is necessary. We need more than bullet points, timelines, trivia tips, or did you know-isms. The demand is right now. We insist. Which way, Savannah? Support countervailing narrative representation, creation, and promotion in the Savannah region and beyond.
Thank you.